Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to dig into the world of physiology. With a little help from RoleCatcher's career resources, they've really got a handle on what it takes to make it in this field. And luckily, we've got an expert here to, well, help us understand why anyone would want to explore the human body.
Well, it's a field that never stops growing, always pushing to learn more about life itself, and RoleCatcher. They really get the passion that drives these scientists.
Yeah, when I hear physiology, I picture researchers in those white coats hunched over microscopes. But RoleCatcher, they show it's so much more dynamic. For example, did you know physiologists are using AI now to personalize medicine? It's wild they can predict how someone will react to medications.
It really goes beyond just memorizing parts of the body. It's about the system, like how everything works together and adapts to, well, everything we do, from a hard workout to just everyday stress.
And speaking of stress, I was reading about how it can really impact our bodies. Like, physiologists are even studying how chronic stress affects the cardiovascular system. Turns out those late nights aren't just rough on the mind, they get the heart too.
Right, and that's where the real-world application comes in. When we understand how stress impacts us, researchers can create specific therapies or interventions to help.
That's when it gets really cool, taking this research and turning it into ways to improve our health.
Exactly. And it's not always about fixing problems, it's optimizing too. Like sports physiologists, they're using what they know to help athletes hit peak performance. It's pushing the limits of what humans can do.
Pushing limits, huh? Well, RoleCatcher talks about how tech is changing the game. CRISPR, bioinformatics.
Yeah.
Can you break those down for us? Why are they so important for physiologists?
So imagine being able to edit genes, like with incredible accuracy. That's CRISPR, basically like tiny scissors for DNA. RoleCatcher even gave an example how it's used to study specific genes and their roles in diseases like cystic fibrosis, totally changing how we understand and hopefully treat genetic problems.
Wow. Okay, that's mind-blowing. Seems like being a physiologist today means more than just loving biology. You got to be tech-savvy, too.
Absolutely. Bioinformatics, for example, is all about using computers and statistics to understand huge amounts of biological data. Think of it like a search engine, but for the human body. It helps find patterns and insights we'd never spot otherwise.
So you need scientific curiosity, A-N-D, a knack for tech. What advice did RoleCatcher have for someone thinking about this career?
Hands-on experience was huge. It's not enough to ace those bio exams. You got to get your hands dirty, well, figuratively, in the lab.
Makes sense. Internships, volunteering, got to get that real-world experience.
Exactly. Putting theory into practice, thinking critically, and figuring out what went wrong when, let's be honest, the experiment inevitably doesn't work out.
It's different reading about cells in a textbook versus being in the lab, facing the challenges, and feeling the wins.
And you pick up those crucial skills: attention to detail, how to analyze, how to understand complex data. You need all that as a physiologist.
Right, makes total sense. So let's talk about finding a job. RoleCatcher had some interesting insights on that front, especially with their AI-powered platform. Seems like a game changer.
Imagine this: a tool that breaks down job descriptions, tells you what skills you need, even helps you tailor your resume for each application. Isn't that what every job seeker wants?
I know I do. But even with all the cool tech, RoleCatcher still emphasized the old-fashioned stuff like networking, going to conferences, meeting researchers. That personal connections still got it.
You're absolutely right. Building those relationships with mentors, with colleagues, that's so important in science. It's all about sharing ideas, learning from each other, pushing the limits of what we know together.
This has been eye-opening. We've just scratched the surface of the world of physiology, from the lab to its impact on human health. Let's take a quick pause, gather our thoughts. When we come back, we'll dive even deeper into what it takes to really thrive in this awesome field. And we're back, diving deeper into the world of physiology with all these great insights from RoleCatcher. Before the break, we were talking about their platform, how it helps with the job search. And let's be honest, that whole process can feel overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a tough job market out there for physiologists. But what I liked about RoleCatcher's advice is it's not just about getting a NY job, right? It's got to be the right fit, something you're actually interested in, something that plays to your strengths.
Totally. They talked about all sorts of specializations within physiology, cardiovascular, neurophysiology, respiratory. I mean, the list goes on. It's like, whoa, there's a whole universe of options I never even considered.
And it's not like those specializations are completely separate either. RoleCatcher pointed out how they all connect. Like, imagine an exercise physiologist working with a cardiologist to create rehab programs for heart patients. They're blending what they know to get the best results.
That's so cool. It's like putting a puzzle together. Each specialization is a piece, and you need them all to see the full picture of how the body works, whether someone's sick or healthy.
Exactly. And as we learn more about the body, brand new specializations pop up. Like, have you heard of psychoneuroimmunology?
Not ringing a bell.
It's all about the connections between, get this, the nervous system, the immune system, and our mental state. Super interesting stuff, especially now that we're learning more about the mind-body connection.
Oh, right. That actually reminds me of the study I read where they found a link between being stressed all the time and having a weaker immune system. Is that maybe why we get sick more easily when we're burned out?
It's definitely possible. That's what's so exciting about this field. There's always something new to discover, a new connection, a deeper layer to uncover. It just goes on and on.
It's like being a detective, but for the human body. Searching for clues, trying to solve the mysteries of how we work, how we adapt, how we thrive. But with all this potential, there's got to be a lot of responsibility too, right? RoleCatcher didn't shy away from the ethical side of things.
For sure, ethics is huge, whether it's research on humans or making sure animals and in studies are treated right. RoleCatcher made it clear. You got to follow the rules, get informed consent, the whole 9 yards.
It's about doing research the right way, always putting the well-being of living things first.
You got it.
Yeah.
And that ethical awareness, it goes beyond just the lab.
Yeah.
Physiologists, they have a say in public health policies, making sure research is used responsibly, and that new discoveries actually benefit everyone.
Using their knowledge to make a real difference in the world. Speaking of which, RoleCatcher shared some pretty inspiring stories about physiologists doing just that, pushing boundaries.
One that stuck with me, this team of researchers, they're developing prosthetic limbs, but not just any limbs. These ones respond to the user's neural signals. It's like blending biology and tech, giving amputees a level of control and movement we've never seen before.
That's amazing. So inspiring to see how this research translates into helping people in such a tangible way. But it can't all be groundbreaking discoveries, right? RoleCatcher keeps it real, too, talking about the day-to-day life of a physiologist.
Right. They talk about all the meticulous work, collecting data, those long hours in the lab, and having the patience to troubleshoot when, let's face it, experiments go wrong all the time. Science is a process, lots of setbacks, but it's all driven by this need to know, this desire to understand everything around us.
So not for the faint of heart, but for someone who loves a challenge, who gets a thrill out of unraveling complexity, who wants their work to matter, physiology seems like an incredibly rewarding path.
No doubt about it. You need that intellectual curiosity, that drive, that constant need to discover something new.
And speaking of discovering, RoleCatcher gave some good tips for staying ahead in this field, because it's changing so fast. They emphasized continuous learning, going to conferences, networking, that sort of thing.
Just like anything else, you got to keep those skills sharp if you want to be at the top of your game. Conferences are great for that. Learning about breakthroughs, meeting other people in your field, even presenting your own work.
It's like being part of this amazing community, a bunch of minds working together to figure out the human body.
And it goes way beyond borders, too. RoleCatcher pointed out how global physiology research is. Scientists all over the world collaborating on the biggest health challenges we face.
It reminds us that science has no boundaries, no limits. It's a universal language. It's about the pursuit of knowledge, bringing us all together.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This field needs open minds, people willing to challenge what we think we know, and a deep respect for just how diverse life is.
This deep dive has been amazing. We've seen just how multifaceted physiology is, from those tiny cellular processes to the potential for improving global health. But there's even more to uncover. When we come back, we'll wrap up this exploration with some final thoughts and key takeaways. We're back one last time, wrapping up our deep dive into physiology. We've covered so much ground, but I'm always curious, what were your biggest takeaways from all this, all these RoleCatcher insights?
Honestly, it's easy to forget just how huge this field is. We think human body, right? But RoleCatcher showed how physiologists are studying everything, like plants, how they work, or animals in crazy environments, how they adapt. It's wild.
It's like zooming in on the entire planet, every living thing on it, trying to figure out how it all ticks, you know?
Totally. And that variety, it shows up in the careers, too. Some become researchers, pushing those boundaries in academia, which is awesome. But others, they go into industry, maybe developing new medicines, medical devices, even tech that helps athletes.
So it's what you know, A&D, how you use it, making a difference out there.
Exactly. And that impact is everywhere. Physiologists are on the front lines of fighting diseases like cancer, Alzheimer's, you name it. They're tackling obesity, the challenges of getting older, even using their knowledge to make safer airplanes, comfier office chairs.
Wow, I never thought about it like that, but it really does touch everything.
And get this, it's just the beginning. What we know about the body now, it's nothing compared to what we'll know in the future. Imagine regrowing damaged organs, reversing aging, boosting our brains. Who knows what's possible?
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it and shaping that future. It's these brilliant researchers working away in their labs all over the world.
And those researchers, they need support. RoleCatcher talked about that, how important mentoring is for anyone going into physiology. Programs that connect students with pros, giving advice, encouragement, that network to help them through the tough stuff. A&D, celebrate the wins.
Passing the torch to the next generation of, like, scientific detectives, the ones who will keep asking those big questions, keep the discoveries coming.
It all comes back to that sense of wonder, that curiosity. That's what fuels this whole field. It makes you question everything, challenge what you think you know, and never stop digging deeper, into how life works.
This deep dive has been amazing. Thank you so much for guiding us through it all. Now, for anyone listening who's feeling fired up about maybe pursuing a career in physiology, what's one last piece of advice you'd leave them with?
Don't ever lose that curiosity. Ask every question you have, even if it seems crazy. Don't be afraid to be wrong, to be surprised. The human body, heck, all of nature is this giant, beautiful puzzle. Bring your passion, your dedication, and never stop learning, and you'll find a place in physiology, I guarantee it.
I love that. And listeners, thank you for being here on this journey with us here on the Deep Dive. We'll be back soon to explore another fascinating corner of our world. Until then, keep those brains engaged and those curiosities piqued.